Hello, I want to welcome everybody to the second session for the South Fairfax Chamber of Commerce's Business Summit. This is going to be on the art of hiring. So we're excited to be able to kind of talk about this topic. As business owners should understand, this is probably your biggest challenge. Okay, so we're super happy to have Caitlin Ruiz, the director of recruiting from Boost LLC, and Carolyn Forsyth, the Human Resource Director from Trademaster Service, here to join us today. And we're excited to hear what you guys have to share. And I will go ahead and pass this on to you guys.
Okay. Can we get to the next slide?
Yes.
All right. Yes. So we'll start off here. I wanted to share a little bit of a visual because I think it's important, since we're going to be going over this on a high level, to be able to see a snapshot of what an employee cycle looks like. What does an employee go through? So it starts with just kind of quickly going over this wheel. Um, Attract and hire the best. That's right here at the top. And then we have, get me started. So, that's your orientation and onboarding. Um, the two components here, they only happen one time. So, unless of course there's a rehire. Um, so, these two here, it's really important to make the best impression. And then we go to training and development, and then you've got to manage performance, engage and motivate your teams. And then and because we're doing so well with these three, we get to reward and have some recognition to continue to motivate. And then these four in the middle, development, the green, the blue, purple, and the red, that's an ongoing cycle within the employment. What happens to the employee through their times in employment. And then, of course, the last one, the gray, wish me farewell. Well, that's the end of employment. It could be a resignation, it could be retirement. It also could be involuntary. So when you hit the termination points, then you've got to fill the position again, and now you've got to attract more talent. So so this life cycle is real important to visualize. I thought I wanted to just go ahead and share that. Again, this is always a constant flow. So hiring, retention, it's always a work in process. And again, retention, we talk about keep employees, but it actually starts with the hiring process. So, you want to you want to attract and you want to hire the best. You go through your screening process. You want to make sure you get the right fit to join your teams. So attracting in a competitive market starts with, your culture and your branding. So, it's got to be a positive experience right from the start, right from the very beginning. So we'll touch on some of these key points today. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide.
Thank you, Carolyn. And absolutely, just to kind of piggyback off of what she just offered, I completely agree that retention actually starts at the beginning of any search. It starts with us getting clear about our company culture, meaning, as an organization, what are your values? And culture is actually a feeling and an experience that people have with your organization and with your brand. And in tandem with that, employer branding. So this is how you're communicating your culture externally. Your hiring process needs to reflect it. And your goal here should be that even candidates that don't get the job offer have nothing but great things to say about the experience that they just went through. And the onboarding experience itself, again, back to what Carolyn had offered us, it's actually a direct tie to retention, and onboarding as a function of the both hiring cycle and then the employee life cycle can actually extend as long as 90 to 120 days into, so the first 3 to 4 months of somebody's employment with an organization. So that is also a reflection back to the beginning of the hiring process, meaning, were we clear about the role? Did the person that came on board, did they feel like they got what they bargained for? Or did they feel the opposite, right? I came on and this was nothing like what I thought it was going to be. And how did we fail them in that? Getting really honest internally about that when it happens. And I think there's also often a disconnect between recruiting, which is what I specialize in, and HR and even the management piece of things. And in GovCon, which is where I come from primarily, it's usually the program manager. So once somebody is off and on site or somebody is off, working the role itself, there's the management piece of it. So again, back to Carolyn's kind of full employee life cycle of things. So it's not just getting the right talent, it's retaining the talent, which means getting clear about the metrics for evaluation for the role, which is the performance management piece of it, which of course lends itself to somebody saying, yes, this is a great fit. It's what I bargained for. I understand where my value is here and what I'm offering. I feel valued. And all of that starts with a company at the very, very beginning of a search, getting super clear about themselves, about their culture, about their brand, and what this experience is going to be. I think we can go to the next slide.
Okay. Yep. So on this slide, how do we attract and retain talent? So, we're going to talk about, what makes employees want to stay. We can find all kinds of reasons why why they leave, but what makes employees want to stay engaged, stay committed, and wanting to, stay with a company. And I'll go over a few things, I might skip around a little bit in some of these bullet points, and not in any kind of order, because some of these areas intertwine with each other also. So we're going to do a quick overview here, and I may go a little bit fast. There's so much to cover. What makes employees want to stay? Obviously, it's having that positive onboarding experience. It's right in the beginning, when you get first contact with a recruiter. That's when it starts. That's the touch point. But before that, it's what they find. What they look online, and what are they looking for? They're researching the company and things like that. And there's decisions made to say, okay, I'm going to apply for this company. So, attracting and retaining, all that all intertwine and work with each other. And during the beginning, there has to be a feeling. It's that experience. Already in the beginning, feeling like I matter, I'm valued. They value the contributions here. I'm seeing some diversity and inclusion. I had the feeling that my contributions will count here. I think I'll be a fit. All of these things, thought process go on, and it can be very overwhelming in the very first period between the first 90 days or 6 months, and getting acclimated to a new position and new career. The company's vision and goals should be aligned with the future of of an upward path. There has to be some sort of vision that that new hire sees, that they can really say, I can really feel like I can fit in here. Do I see myself here in the future? Is this a lasting relationship? Do I see myself retiring here? So a lot of these things happen very early on. So it's really important for the onboarding and orientation process to be to be a positive one. So let's say the new hire goes through a positive orientation and onboarding. So what's next? This is where a big disconnect happens. They get through all the recruiting process, the background check, get hired on, get through the orientation, and we do a handoff. We hand off to the management, right, to their supervisors. So there's some things here that we've got to think about, and that is turnover is highest during the onboarding period. Between 1 to 6 months, you're going to experience your higher turnover rates. It's even higher between the first day to 90 days. So, we've got to capture that early on and make sure that we are keeping in touch, and we're following that process, going through that flow. And some of the things that you could do is also implement a 30, 60, and 90-day state interviews, and performance updates. So you're keeping there's engagement between the new hire and the supervisor. That's an ongoing process, because again, there's that disconnect as soon as you hand off to their department. So this is one way to keep the connection going. You've invested a lot already, so we want to make sure that we we've gone through the screening process, and we want this new hire to stay with us. Just some information here. The cost of turnover can range from 30 to 50% of the vacant position's annual salary. Each industry is going to be a little bit different and can range. Also, it can range by position and tenure. So, again, it can range by industry. You can't compare yourself to, like, let's say a retail markets. Their benchmarking and turnover is going to be a little bit higher than some other industries. So, it's good to have some way to measure. Again, some turnover is good though. However, today we'll focus on, attracting and retaining your talent. So the next, there's so many phases of the life cycle. They're all just as important. So again, having that positive hiring experience and onboarding is real important. Let's talk about management leadership. They're going to set the tone of the culture. It starts from the top. It's common for employees to lead management, not the company. Management should be fair and consistent in treatment. Management should be committed to building an environment that's safe and open with honest communication, even when there's disagreements. So, something like that, you want to foster a culture of problem solving and not problem avoidance. Setting clear goals and expectations, building trust together is so important. Empowering your teams, making them feel like their opinions valued. They want to feel appreciated. Listen to your coworkers. They want a voice, and management that's supportive and understanding. And the teams, we want to make sure we set them up for success. So when these things are met, employees are likely to remain and stay committed and productive. Clear communication and company values and cultures. Engagement is so important. Teams want to feel a sense of belonging. Employees feeling connected to the mission of the company and their goals. They see that big picture together. They're more motivated. One thing too is, I've used pulse surveys. Those are great tools to see how things are going. You don't want to, get past that introductory period of, 6 months, 90 days, or even a year, and then not keep a pulse on what's going on with your working environment. Having some common goals, aligning, business together so it brings stronger cohesiveness, which leads to optimal performance, belonging, and personal satisfaction of going to work. But these are essential factors in creating a work environment that's where employees want to stay, but not only stay, but they want to excel. So improving morale, that's a substantial impact on the future of your business. You hear a lot on the news when there's mergers of companies and they come together, but their cultures clash. Those can really be tough situations to try to work through. There's some things that go a long way when I say morale, saying thank you. Something as simple as that, appreciation. Encouraging work-life balance, that's so important these days. Promoting from within goes a long ways. Offering incentives, and doing little events and things like that. Those small things go a long way with morale. When the work environment is comfortable and flexible, and tools are provided, there's a drive to work and be more productive. Employees, they strive to learn. They want to earn that recognition. They want to earn rewards. And so, when we have all these things in place, teams can be inspired to perform even higher. So we talk about, let's say, total compensation. This includes so many things, not just salary. So, we look at pay increases, and that could be a component of performance. It could include cost of living or tenure. Obviously compensation should always be competitive. Employees, I've seen it. Employees will leave for a quarter on the dollar. Offering some great benefits, medical, dental, life insurance, being able to have life insurance on your family members, disability programs, focus on wellness, 401k and retirement programs. Those are very attractive. When the employer shows, not just talk the talk, but, also walk it, you've got to show it. when employers care about the health and financial wellness of their employees, it creates a feeling of stability. And there's other benefits too, I mean, it can go on tuition, reimbursement, holidays, leave, PTO is very popular now with that work-life balance. So there's other supplemental benefits that can add to like a total compensation program. Learning and development, you're learning, training, developing your teams is another important component of the employee life cycle. This should always be ongoing, and it also change with the business climate. As business change, learning change, skills may need to be changed. So you have training to close those skill gaps and bring them closer together. Technology gaps. I mean, look at how technology has evolved. So you want to make sure that you close a gap with technology, new systems, whenever companies come together, mergers and acquisitions. I mean, all of these things have to go with change. So employees can master higher skill levels and apply to their daily productivity. Skilled performers obviously are motivated, with a possibility of advancement. Increasing team experience and skills lead to predicted productivity, inspiring, innovation workforces. Embracing change. Those are always tough because those are going to, change is going to happen. So again, like working through a pandemic, being able to have that flexibility and mobility of your employees to be able to, do it quickly. This happened so fast. We were able to, make those changes. But communication is key, train and then sometimes you got to realign your business. So, but again, the vision's got to be there. Employees need to feel included and be part of the big picture. Under the training and learning development, there's performance reviews, constant feedback. You want to constantly be engaged with your employees. Your supervisor should be doing this all the time, not just when, oh, I can't do this anymore. I've got to write this employee up. Well, have you had any conversations? Well, no. It needs to be an ongoing process. Employees want feedback when, there's an opportunity to make change and do better. And they also want feedback to be recognized for what they do very well, not just hear about it when there's a problem. So, feedback should be ongoing, write-ups should never be surprises. Sometimes the writing needs to be on the wall and you need to be able to see those things. Training and apprenticeship programs are very attractive. And then some of the things, again, opportunities for promotions, and then job expansions. May not be a promotion, but a particular position may, have some added responsibilities and challenges. So those are also attractive. So, just trying to close this out, as a business, we strive for the optimal customer satisfaction. We want to make sure our customers are very satisfied, but it's just as important for your employees because they're your internal customers. And so they do correlate. We've got the power of the internet. So, when an applicant is out there, here we're going back to the top of the wheel and we've got to attract again. And, the internet is a very powerful tool. Your applicants are going to go and do their homework and they'll research the companies and they'll see how the company is treating their customers. And they'll also go to Glassdoor and some of these job boards to see employee ratings and comments. So again, it's all, it all interplays with each other. So, what's seen is a decision early on, whether we're going to attract that talent and they're going to make that decision to say, I want to apply for this company, I want to be part of that team. So again, we want to set up for success so that it's a win-win. And hopefully we've kind of got some thoughts going here and I'll close this up and I want to thank everybody for their time and appreciate and allowing me to be here. Thank you. So we can go to the next slide.
Oh, well, I actually, Carolyn, I'd love to get some insight from Caitlin on some stuff that she had shared within the chat. And we do have a couple of questions before we go to that slide. But
Okay.
Caitlin, you brought up some great points as far as COVID and the flexibility. How's that really impacted hiring in that realm with a post-COVID realm?
Yes. So I think even prior to COVID, so good old 2019, which everyone misses so dearly, there was a kind of a ramp up towards the wanting and desire of remote work anyway, right? And then 2020 happened and it became mandatory, like across the board, almost regardless of industry. And now we're kind of on the uptick of return to normal, whatever that may be. And there's a lot of organizations that are publicly stating what their stance is: hybrid return to work, no return to work. I mean, some of the big boys like Google, and I think they may have stated outright, like they have no intention to ever go back in office. So there's a lot of candidate expectation around either extreme flexibility or complete remote flexibility, like that will be the standard going forward. So I think if from a business perspective, that makes overhead pretty low. So I think you should highly consider that. And it also sends a cultural message of a lack of micromanagement, that you don't need to see someone in your office to believe that they're doing work, which was always kind of the theory behind the request and the desire for remote work or hybrid workforces to begin with prior pandemic was, how micromanaging does this company really need to be that I have to be in an office when there's no actual reason to do my job in an office? Recruiting being one of them. I don't actually have to be anywhere. I have to be available to candidates all the time and managers, but I don't actually need to physically be with you in an office. So if you are mandating that, then that's a cultural issue. And you should really, again, a lot of this is about an organization taking an honest look at themselves and what's important to them and why. And then how is that, or what is the perception in terms of candidacy and how a candidate is going to view that request. But I will say that, 95% of the people that I speak to on a daily basis expect that it is remote right now and with the intention of probably staying remote for the foreseeable future, whatever the job may be. And I also think that to Carolyn's beautiful points around compensation and benefits and the whole package, the value package for a candidate, I think each industry and each organization needs to get clear on who their workforce is, what that demographic is typically, and what would be important to them. So for example, if you're working with a bunch of super young 20-year-old kids, typically it's the tech industry or something like that, and they don't tend to have a lot of family needs, like they're not in kind of that stage of their life, but they're big dog people, and dogs in the office people and pets are like number one on their value list, which is pretty typical, honestly, of that demographic. Then offering pet insurance is actually very inexpensive and does wonders from a branding and cultural perspective. Like, how cool that this company is going to pay for my pet insurance for my super awesome dog that now I get to spend all day with on the Zoom calls, right? So it's a great kind of value that's real. My own company took it up last year for the first time, and I pitched it. I was like, guys, we're all dog people and we see everyone's animals now. Like, can we just do some pet insurance? And they were like, yeah, sure. And it was great. Like, everyone loves that. So sometimes it's not as complicated as you think it is. And the benefit is just tenfold what the business cost is around it.
Wonderful. And
Yes.
I absolutely think you're correct. You guys definitely make some valid points. I mean, quite candidly, your culture, and especially a pre-COVID environment, is really morphing and transforming into something completely different. And you got to stay with the times,
Mhm.
adapt and overcome. So it's really crucial that you kind of figure out what direction you want to go. Is it mandatory? And those are the questions that you've got to ask yourselves. Um, before we get on to another question, I do have a first question, which was, what are the common mistakes people make with onboarding? If you guys can share some common mistakes, that'd be wonderful.
Sure. I think,
Go ahead.
yeah, from my perspective, I just have one kind of pet peeve of mine, but it's almost the lack of planning of onboarding. So especially in a virtual remote workforce environment, you need to plan for onboarding eh, much farther ahead than you did typically when the person was just physically walking into the office on Monday at 9 a.m. Now we need to ship a laptop. We need to ship swag. We need to make sure it's all there ahead of time, preferably a couple of days before the first day of work. So the candidate has time to open up the computer, log in, make sure the things work. So they're not frantic on Monday trying to figure it out. So it also, again, the employer branding and the cultural message being, We thought about you. You matter. We planned for this. We sent it all to your house ahead of time. I always suggest to our clients that they do like an actual package, like a welcome package of sorts with whatever the branded items are for your organization, like the pens, the cups, the whatever, right? The cutesy stuff that everyone loves. And then, again, it doesn't, if you make it show up on Monday, when they start work on Monday, they will panic. Everyone will panic. Like it's not a clean, thoughtful onboarding. So that's what I see the downfall being most often. But I'm sure Carolyn, being on the other side of that, the HR side, has 100 other examples of ways that people fail the onboarding process.
Yes, and a lot of times, like you had just alluded to, Caitlin, is, like you pointed out, it's definitely the planning, looking ahead and trying to make sure that, again, with working from home, that you've got all your technology in place. Whether they walk in the door on the computer, are you prepared? That says a lot. I mean, I know I had an experience with a friend of mine that went, she was in HR and went for an HR position. She walked in the door and they didn't even know who she was. She walked out. Well, that turnover was pretty quick. It lasted about an hour. So, being prepared, because the time and attention that you spend for what that new hire is going to go through, which is already scary enough, that you've taken the time and attention and it shows, and that you've prepared everything. Checklists are so important. Checklists for one position may be different for another. So a checklist for a technician that's going to be driving is totally different from somebody who's going to work in the office, right? So, sometimes I see disconnect there, not everything fits. So we've got to understand and be prepared for what the needs are, and make sure that we have the tools to set up a successful, onboarding. And that we've got all the touch points and we have the checklist in place. But, that's usually a breakdown. Again, expectations, those need to be laid out up front in the very beginning and through the interview process. Sometimes it's very simple. I've had hired somebody, and then the managers, they want, oh no, I need this employee to be able to work until, this position is a night, it's until 8 o'clock. Well, that was never in the requisition, right? So again, putting those expectations out there up front and make sure that we go through, the good, but also some of the things that could be a challenge, that's all out there up front, up in the very beginning. It's so important to lay that out and be very clear.
Wonderful. Thank you guys for both chiming in on that. And that's all pitfalls that we want to prepare ourselves for. There's an old expression, a smart person learns from their own mistakes, a wise person learns from the mistakes of others. I always tell my folks I consider myself a very smart person. Okay, I've made many mistakes. So learning from these mistakes, it's really important, and it's just kind of a understanding that I have. Every time you make a mistake, you learn from it, then you just won't do it again. So we have another question. What resources, internal or external, do you use for posting job openings and attracting candidates?
Yes, so I think this is a great question, and I think it completely depends. It's super contextual based on industry, role, and even company position. If you're a 2-person company, you're not going to spend $15,000 on a high-end ATS that runs your careers page for applicants to apply to. So that's not, a normal thing for you to do. That makes no sense. However, if you are in my world, it's usually technical roles. It's usually cybersecurity, high-end program management roles, often for the government, often in the cleared space. My set of resources is vastly different from somebody in a trade industry, from somebody in retail. So it definitely depends, but any company that has a careers page, typically an ATS, which is an applicant tracking system, is an overlay to the careers page. So when you click on apply to this job, that is taking you inside their ATS, their applicant tracking system. And those are not inexpensive. So I want to say on the cheap end, maybe $1,500 a year for something that's kind of rickety, all the way up to 25, 30, 50,000, depending on the enterprise level of the tech. And then job postings themselves, same thing. You have to be very strategic about where are your people? Where do they live? Are they on a social media platform? Are they in an association typically? Are they on Indeed? Are they more Dice or Monster people? Like, every candidate profile has a typical target, a typical way to be targeted. They're more likely to be on XYZ tech platforms than they are on the others, or none at all. There are some candidates in some jobs where they're not on platforms at all. So you have to start stalking meetup groups, or you have to start stalking, the kickball group that meets up around the corner from the office, because that's your target workforce demographic. So you get creative, but it starts with getting really clear about who that person is. And then where do they go? Where would they be likely to go? And then being very strategic about how you're spending your money in those places. Because again, job postings are also not inexpensive. A couple hundred here and there, all the way up to a couple thousand, depending on the platform and the level of visibility that you want.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing, Caitlin. Carolyn, do you have some insight on that? Like, where do you guys find that you're finding applicants? I mean, that's probably, I'd say probably the art of hiring is finding people to to
Yes,
interview.
yes, it is. We use referrals. Those are
Mhm.
always great. Um, we use an applicant tracking system also that, certain positions we will add a little bit of technology to and get a sponsorship on them. So that, when somebody does a search, HVAC technician, that we somehow pop up on the first page, right? So
Yep.
we get that attention. But again, there's a cost to all that, to get that sponsored. We no, we it used to be that you had to post a job at each site and pay $300 to $500 to post at each job board. But now with technology, there's companies that'll take that and swipe that off your website and get it out there so that, your information comes up when the search shows up. There's also, we, in some of my other, past life, is it's kind of like a geo fencing where, hey, we know our technicians are going to show up at all these supply houses to pick up supplies. So let's have something pop up on their phone, when they're picking up supplies for plumbing and we need plumbers. um, and social media is a great place. Everybody's on social media, so we try to hit those areas, have those ads come up, ads and employment both. And so there's a lot of creative things that you can do, but technology definitely is your friend when you're really trying to get out there. And again, like Caitlin was pointing to, sometimes your passive candidates are your best ones. They're not really looking, they're fine where they're at. And sometimes you've got to go in and try to figure out how do you get their attention. So there's a lot of things that you can do in the recruiting, that you've got to be creative, use that technology and try to combine all your resources.
Outstanding. And that's kind of it. And it's so funny that what you guys have shared today has really kind of gone over a huge spectrum of stuff. I mean, between between really making sure that you understand how people view you as a company and what your
Mhm.
culture is. I think that's extremely important, especially in this day with technology and the social media presence. People know more about you than you probably do.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so having that presentation, that presence within the that platform, so people can get to know you, is a great starter. Like Carolyn mentioned, for some of those people that are not looking, and that are content where they're at, but just you'd like to pull them over to your side. And then on for Caitlin, what she was mentioning, what she put in there as far as Indeed or other platforms that are out there, having having the right tools in place, the right little perks that pop up, pet insurance. I mean, creativity. I mean,
Mhm.
I will tell you, I know my office is not of a Google presence, but I would love to boast having those little napping chairs. Okay.
The pods are awesome.
They're great. uh, but the concept is really just to get creative and put yourself out there. But then, like you guys shared in the beginning, making sure that you have that transition. What's next? Because the
Yeah.
last thing you want to do is bring somebody on and have them just sit there and not know what's going on,
Mhm.
because it adds confusion, and then they start questioning what they're doing. So these are all great messages to basically have this plan of attack in place. So thank you guys so much for sharing. I'll tell you, the two takeaways that I had was, on top of what I just mentioned. Carolyn, you mentioned earlier the cycle of hiring. Uh, Never stops, folks. Okay.
Yeah.
At some point, your team member, your employee will likely transition. Statistically, it's just the way it is. So
Right.
always be looking. Always have your
Mhm.
funnel filled. And then Caitlin, you mentioned, to make every experience count. And you make a great point, because you just never know. Your next applicant could be your customer.
Yes. Yes. I actually use that
Yes.
example all the time, that your clients could have been a candidate for your organization at some point. Like, it's far more likely than you think. It matters
Yeah,
greatly. It really does.
absolutely. So remember that.
Yep.
Even if somebody might not be a great fit, definitely treat them with respect,
Yep.
because
Yes.
they could be the one calling you up. So, and I love the concept of all this is the hiring. It's so expensive. It
Mhm.
really is. And if you properly plan things out and have that good onboarding process, you really want to do everything you can to mitigate a bad choice. So definitely, or a bad choice in onboarding to keep them happy and want to continue employment. So
Right.
all great things to share today. At that point, I'd love for you guys to kind of go over your respective the Boost podcasts, because the print's a tad small, but Caitlin, I'll let you kind of chime in on those resources.
Yes. So we at Boost have this beautiful marketing division and a beautiful marketer, Meg Kearns, who started a podcast for us in, I think, January of this year, and it has done great. It is all sorts of super transparent, honest conversation about all the hard topics. I've done, I think, 2 or 3 podcasts on there now. So anything to do with hiring in a pandemic, hiring post-pandemic, all of the things that we kind of touched on at a high level today, we go in depth about. And our very next upcoming one is on May 4th. So the text is hard to read, but it's the Star Wars reference, because of course, May the 4th be with you. So it's a webinar on ICS. And if you all need any more further information on either the podcast, which is GovCon Untethered, or our webinars, please come see us at boostllc.net.
Perfect.
Mhm. Mm.
And so once again, I want to thank Caitlin from Boost and Carolyn from Trade Masters for showing up today and talking to us about the art of hiring. It is a um, art that's a tad hard to master, but once you do, you'll see your business prosper. Once again, I do want to say thank you to our sustaining members. Without our sustaining members, we wouldn't be able to put on these great presentations and spread the message on how to better your business. And I mean, that's kind of our passion on why we're here. So we're definitely looking forward to having others show up today. Uh, we have other sessions. We have the ABCs of digital marketing coming up next. We have also the Beyond Service to Your Country. Are you financially literate? And make connections work for your business and nonprofit. All of this leading up to our our 6 p.m. happy hour. You are all invited to it. We are going to get an update on the chamber activities and our initiatives. We're going to have a meet and greet. It's just going to be a great thing to kind of end this business summit on a very collaborative, happy note. So thank you all for showing up today. We really appreciate your attendance, and I want to thank our panelists once again for coming and sharing their words of wisdom.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
it's a
everybody.
pleasure.
Appreciate it.